Океј, добар ден, почитувани колешки и колеги. Добре дојдовте на 25-тиот вебинар на Македонското научно здружение за аутизам. Денеска ќе имаме повторно една интересна гостинка. Ќе ми дозволите на почетокот да ја представам, а претходно и да ви кажам дека ова се снима, како и другите вебинари. Ќе се обидеме, денеска не оди директно стримингот, но ќе се обидеме отпосле да го прикачиме на нашиот YouTube канал за сите оние кои што не се во можност да присуствуваат на денешниот вебинар. С неколку зборови од нејзината биографија. Паола Молтени е доктор по педагошки науки од Католичкиот универзитет во Милано, Италија. Докторирала на тема аутизмот во училиштето, образовни и наставни стратегии за инклузија. Таа има направено истражување во Центарот за образование и истражување за аутизам при Универзитетот во Бирмингем, Англија, и соработува со Државниот универзитет во Њујорк, Њу Палц. Таа е предавач по образовни стратегии за лицата со аутизам и специјална едукација. Таа е педагошки консултант во предучилишните установи, основните и средните училишта и активно соработува со провинцијските училишни канцеларии од регионот Ломбардија. Работела како едукатор во областа на специјалната едукација во Италија, поточно во Милано, и секако во САД, Андерсон центарот за аутизам, Статсбург, Њујорк. Сега јас ќе се префрлам на англиски јазик. Hello, good morning, Dr. Paola Molteni. I am really grateful to have you today with us. We usually are organizing these webinars in 7:00 p.m., but because of your obligations, private obligations, we change it in these morning hours. So there are not so many people. We have in this meeting until now 22, but from 80 which were registered. But I am recording this webinar, and with your permission, I will upload it on our Macedonian Scientific Society YouTube channel, if you agree with that. I read your short bio, and also I will mention that you're editorial board member of Journal of Health and Rehabilitation Sciences, where I'm editor-in-chief, and I am also thankful for that. So it is time you can start it. The floor is yours. I will turn off my microphone and camera, and you have 45-50 minutes for your presentation about autism and family and experiences from Italy. Okay, let's go.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Vladimir, and welcome everybody. And thank you to give me time in the morning, and I'm really happy to be here with you today. I am totally agreed to share this video and this recording on your channels in YouTube, and I really hope that the people listening to me this morning can be driven into a new thought about autism and how to support families. Actually, my background, it is related to university, as Vladimir said, and it is also related to family support, because I also work in an autism center, as you mentioned, and my working week, it is divided between academia and family support. So today I will share with you my insights, my experiences, and my knowledge about family support and how we're trying to do it in Italy, in particular in the region where I come from, that is Lombardia. I live very close to Milan, and my center, it is located in the province of Monza. So today I will share about how we work and how we do our job with families. So I would like to share with you, firstly, through this presentation, some insights about how we think about family support, in particular having an eye on quality of life support. Because usually when we think about autism, we really think about how to increase therapy and clinical support, but that is not enough if we think about lifelong learning support. So supporting a family that is approaching autism for the first time, it is really important to have this bigger view on how we can actually develop as a network real quality of life. And we actually made up the idea of case management. It is not an idea that comes from Italy, but in the way our region increased this kind of work and this kind of professional approach, it is really specific to our country. So I would like to start with a quote from The London Eye Mystery from Siobhan Down. Is a novel, and the main character of this novel is on the spectrum. And this little kid said aloud this phrase, that is, "I know I'm different. My brain has an operating system that is diverse from other people's. I see things that they don't see, and sometimes they see things I don't." And this is a very important quote from how I see it, because sometimes as professionals, we think we need to change other people's life. But this is not the way we should follow. We need to question ourselves on what is really the need of the other person and how the other person's brain working, and how we can facilitate the learning process and the development process. So the key word that I've already said is process. Imagine if you have a computer and you probably are operating on Windows, but maybe some of you are operating on iOS from Apple. So in both of these computers, you can actually write emails. In both of these computers, you can go on the internet and probably using social networks and any other communicational and productive tools. But what is different is the process you're following up to manage the same goal in two different operating systems. And if you think about this, about into neurodiversity, neuroatypicity, that is basically related to autism, but not only to autism, we can actually think that we need to change our way to see process, learning and developing processing, in order to understand that we need to follow a different way to reach probably the same goals. So this is really important, because at this point we can also ask ourselves a question. Is the quality of life support process different in a family that welcomes a person with autism? What we know from research, that the answer to this question is yes, because the way of processing information and the way to understanding the world, it might be different from a point of view of a person with autism compared to a person without autism. So the neurodiversity is asking ourselves, to families and to professionals, about how to develop a quality of life in order to really support family in the process of lifelong learning and quality of life. So I would like to share with you a video, and it is in English and it is subtitled. I have different videos today to show you. And this is an English commercial, and actually it was not seen in Italy, and I don't think it has shown in your country too. But the main actor is actually a person on the spectrum, is a very famous one, and it's really important to think about the message that actually the sister would like to give us today through this video. Have a good watch.
My brother Stephen has the ability to replicate cityscapes, buildings, cars, almost to perfection. He has a photographic memory. Stephen is not able to filter anything. He absorbs everything. Detail is the highlight to his drawing. Today, he has a challenge, not with pen and paper, but using tools that he's never used before.
Impressive, isn't it? And this video really show what we can actually look forward in our work and in our support to family. And my question when I saw this video before is how we actually can support the whole network to have other Stephen Wilshire in the future. I also question myself to think which kind of child was he when he was in school? Did he find people able to support him? Did he find teachers able to support this special, unique interest he has on drawing instead of turn it off? So Stephen told us it's easy for me to remember things I find interesting. And of course, I really think this aspect works for everybody. It is really hard to learn something we're not interested in. But it is this part of this quote is really super true when it comes for individuals with autism. So the idea of our case management is how to support the network in order to allow everybody, starting mainly from family members. And when I say family members, I don't only mention the two parents, so mother and father, but absolutely also siblings, grandparents, uncles and aunties, so all the large family working around the child. So the case management itself is the coordination of services on behalf of an individual person who may be considered a case in different settings such as healthcare, nursing, rehabilitation, social work, but of course disability, employment, and also law. So our case management work, so this coordination of services is considered not only on the medical or on the social point of view, but the case manager is called to work on the biopsychosocial model, so a systemic model that is promoted, of course, into the ICF model from the World Health Organization, and in particular push us to look into how we can actually support a family and how we can manage and coordinate all the services around the individual person with autism in a coordinated way. And we know that consistency and coordination and be really balanced inside the network is a key point when we support a person with autism. A person with autism needs all the rest of the world to be coordinated and to be consistent in the work they do. So they struggle more often if we change the proposal, if we change how we react and how we work with them. So the idea of our coordinator is absolutely key to understand how to actually support all the work. So mainly the case management is related directly to community. So this part is super important because we, as you can see, we did some research understanding what people actually think case management is. And as you can see, we have the word community as a keyword really central in our work. So of course, we need to have community to help and change the settings and support people in their needs. And the word community brings us back to the idea of community of practice. In a project that I coordinate for the Italian team back in 2019, we actually tried into this European project that is called Transform Autism Education. If you look it up in internet, you will find more information about it. The idea that the community of practice is absolutely important to work and to support the work and the practice in autism education. It means that a professional and a family must not be alone when they work and when they support a person with autism. This is really important because when it comes to therapy and rehabilitation and the work of a support center, usually understanding the best team that we need to have inside the center is really crucial. So I would like to share with you the center I support that is called Cascina San Vincenzo. It's a non-profit association that runs the main center for autism in my province. And in this center, I am the educational coordinator. So usually the centers that are supporting a person with autism in Italy are mainly clinical centers, so rehabilitation centers. With rehabilitation centers, I mean logotherapy, speech therapy, psychotherapy, and not really case management support that has their basis inside the educational perspective. So our center is mainly, first of all, felt as a feeling at home and the idea of community. So some parents said going to this center is like going home. You feel always welcomed. So the idea of having a cascina in Italy is like a common house. Cascina is a building that back in the past and still now was used by farmers to have more families together, working all together the land. So really represent the idea of a community. As you can see in the picture, you don't really look at a hospital structure, a hospital building, but it's a real community building. And the idea of a community building also made up two families living in loco. So we have two families with their children living inside the center. These two families, one of them has a child, now as a young man on the spectrum, and they're both families that funded the nonprofit. And this gave the idea that the center is open 24/7. So if you have a child on the spectrum and you want to chat, you want to support, you want to have a family that is going to listen to your needs, you can come to the center and you can find professionals, but you can also find other families living there. So the idea of community put the idea also of family first, not professional first. And this is really important, even though like I'm a professional, but I really believe in that. So another mom said, here in the center, we've found a home. We found a family. Now we're supporting 125 individuals under the age of 18 And actually, we are starting to support also individuals above age of 18. So right now, we actually reached the number of almost 200 individuals and 200 families supporting in the center. So just look at the numbers. We have around 15% of foreign families, so non-Italian families. And some of other pupils also as a parent on the spectrum. And this is a key point. We found out through research that some of our families actually live neurodiversity and autism in a wider spectrum. So we might have a child with autism, but we also have a parent with autism. And some of these parents got a diagnosis after the child got diagnosed. So this is really important because understanding how to support a family where the autism is lived not only by the child, but also by some parents, sometimes both of parents, is really crucial for a community center and for a professional. And around 20% of our families are also under social service care. Some of them are under the law service. So it means that are really special families into the specialty. The third part is the idea of community, and case management means also supporting each other. So supporting each other means the kids will learn from you, but also you will learn from the kids. And every day you will get the chance to see things from a new perspective. This is the voice of one of our volunteers, and she's also a teacher. As you can see, we have around 15, 20 people of staff and 35 volunteers and 5 provinces involved. So not only our main province, but we also have families coming from other provinces to our center. And as you can see, the network is really wide, connected to healthcare services, local authority, and school network. The school network, in particular, if you work with children that are into the school age, is super important. After family comes school, and understanding how to work with school is absolutely key for a center and for a case manager. Thinking about community means also enabling people. Enabling people wants to think wider and understanding also how to develop good training. Every year we have good family training that we repeat every year, and we also have for their support also through training, specialized training. We are running university research, and I am in charge of all the university trainee students. And right now we have about 4 trainee students from university and 10 trainee students from high school. And these are really important for us to have. Of course, we have volunteers, fundraising, individual support, social training and workshops, and we work also leisure time and company partnership. So the company partnership is key to develop support for work and understanding how to put a person with autism inside the labor market, inside the work market, but also company partnerships means also fundraising, so more money and more support. And finally, the word community means also finding new answers. So the idea of finding new answers is absolutely important. One of the kids I support is 17 years old. He said, I really like going to the center. My mentor supported me a lot in my path, and now I like who I became. So I like myself more. I know myself more. So working as a community of practice, working as case managers means finding new answers to the questions you can read in the slide. So what really means quality of life for this person, but also for his family. What is work? What is the meaning of employment? What is the meaning of adulthood for these people? And what they think about relationship and friendship? And what is the meaning of happiness and family for them? So all these questions are not easy to answer, not at all. But I really think that as case managers and as professionals supporting the community of practice and the community and the wider community, is really important to ask ourselves what kind of answers you give to the people. So I try to rebuild the network we have around the child. So the team around the child is absolutely important. So we have 4 main areas around the child on the spectrum that we support. So we have, of course, the family, but as you can see, not only parents, but also friends, family friends, siblings, of course, relatives. We have the school. The school would not only have support for teachers, but we want to have school educators on board and peers. The work on peers is absolutely important. This is the key, the real key on scholastic inclusion from my point of view. My PhD work was mainly dedicated to this topic, so how to support inclusion at school and how to also empower the knowledge of peers in understanding how they can welcome a child on the spectrum in primary school. Of course, we have the work of the Autism Center, so group support, individual support, and the case management support and team. And our work also goes into the general network that is related to social network, health network, but also the free time network, that is sport, after school centers, and leisure centers. So we actually provide support to all the people that meet the child, not only to family and school. It's really important that our sport coach, imagine a soccer coach, a football coach, knows better how to work with a child on the spectrum, because otherwise all the work that we do on training, on therapy, falls apart because the network around the child is not able to support him. So the network, it might be, of course, formal, informal, or non-formal. So the formal education, of course, is generally school and is general academic settings and general, program institutions. The informal education is around the lifelong process, and it is related to support attitudes, values, skills, knowledge, in particular in the family and the neighbors and all the kind of environment. The non-formal organization and education is still a key point, and we're not facing enough about that. And the non-formal education is considered any organized education activity outside the formal system. So it might be sport, it might be, how you meet outside the work and how you meet outside the school and what you do with your friends. So actually the network is absolutely complicated, very complicated. So understanding how to support the network for a center and a professional, the network around the child and around the family is absolutely key to really rethink about quality of life. So actually what we know from research has shown that the level of impairment in language and cognitive ability do not seem to change the level of parenting stress. So actually, this is a very good information that we have from research, because it appears that the combination, and it's a unique combination of behavioral, functional, emotional problems, and not really the core symptoms of autism, creates a high level of parenting stress. For many years, we have thought that the level of impairment in language and cognitive ability impact dramatically the parenting stress. So, saying in few words, more is severe the autism, more is severe the parenting stress. But this is not true. In our center, we welcome all the level of autism. So we have from very severe autism up to super intelligent Asperger's kids. So what we actually have noticed and what is proved by international research is that the parenting level of stress is very not related to cognitive ability, but is directly related to what is autism and how the autism is actually impacting the quality of life. So this is very important to me to share with you, because I really think this is actually a switching point on how we are facing autism and quality of life. So when we think about quality of life, we need to understand about, of course, behavioral problems, non-compliance. We can have problems in tolerating, learning difficulties, cognitive impairment, impose limits on family opportunities. So really work hard on family opportunities. Do not let a person being isolated by the local community. It could be a lack of self-care abilities, needs for care across the whole lifespan. We can have hyperactivity, mood disturbance, language deficit, also adding work in sexual expression and how they live their sexuality, social difficulties, and they are high likelihood of remaining at home. And we also have our functional dependence. So there are many things getting together, and understanding what we can do is very important, because otherwise we are not looking about the quality of life and how this impact on the person on the spectrum. So actually, how we can answer to this question, how can we work on quality of life when we support a family that is living with a person with autism? And I want to use another quote from Jim Sinclair. He is a person on the spectrum, and he really helps us to understand what can be done more. He says, being autistic doesn't mean not being human. It means being different. It means being unique. In a way, I feel very poorly equipped to survive in this world, like an extraterrestrial who got lost without a manual to know how to orientate himself. But my personality has remained intact, and my individuality is not damaged. I find great value and meaning in life, and I have no desire to be healed of myself. This is super important. They do not desire to be changed. They desire to be driven in understanding who they are, and now they can grow up in a happy way, in a full way. Grant me the dignity of rediscovering myself in the ways I desire. Recognize that we're different from each other, that my way of being is not just a fade version of yours. Ask yourself about your beliefs and define your positions. Work with me to build bridges between us. This is very key. The idea of building bridges between us. So if we think about building bridges, okay, this is a very common figure when we talk about education, okay? But how can we build a bridge that is solid and useful if the two towns you want to connect are falling apart? So before starting to building bridges, we need to be sure, as professionals and case managers, that both of these parts are not falling apart. So if we want to connect the network, we need to ask themselves, which kind of strengths has this area, which kind of strengths and needs has this family, in order to connect them together. Otherwise, the bridge will fall apart very fast and very easily. So this is my first point, understanding how to build in bridges between different parts of the network you need. But before working on the bridge, put energy to make solid the two towns you want to connect. Otherwise, the bridges is going to fall apart immediately. Okay. The second point about looking at case management is like understanding the case management as an equalizer. You know, the equalizer is what you use to balance music. And music is a great metaphor for me when I think about neurodiversity. So when I thought about case management, I really think that we need to understand how to personalize our work. But personalize the work, it doesn't mean to make a brand new kind of work every time. We need to understand what are the key points. Okay, what are the key points we need to balance? So an equalizer is a good metaphor for me in understanding how we can do a better work to support these people as professionals. So I welcome you to think, what is your equalizer? What are the keywords present in your equalizer? And now you are able to balance these lines. If you're a family, I really welcome you to think about how the professionals supporting you are able to personalize this path together with you. And this brings us to talent. I'm sure you know this lady. This lady is Temple Grandin, is one of the most important person on the spectrum, is American, and probably it was one of the first, probably she is one of the first that is speaking aloud about her autism. She's a super talented woman, very busy in developing structures for animals and cows. And what she says is a big point about talent. Discover, nurture, and educate talent. So many people on the spectrum can benefit from the very important experience of work and the satisfaction of contributing to their families and communities and being dependent and economically self-sufficient. So the key point is we need to find out the talent. You remember the video that we saw about Stephen Wickings, and understanding the talent means do not rush in stopping atypical behaviors, but understand how these behaviors and these special interests can be educated and can be driven to talent is absolutely key. And to do so, we need to find connections. Probably you know this toy, and this toy is very used both on recreational settings, school settings, kindergartens, but also therapy. I can have a child that it maybe not be interested in colors, not being interested in hand and eye coordination. But if I start to find the key to connect the child through this toy, I can also make connections to make the interest bigger and bigger and bigger again. So as you can see, we can start from a very simple thing, a very simple interest to allow children to develop talent. So finding connections is a key point of ability for a parent and for a professional supporting a person on the spectrum. I want to show a video of one of the kids I support, and I want to show you how he was behaving usually when he was coming back from school. His name is Giovanni, and as you can see, he's really into this behavior, and it's a super sensory stimulation. He really loves it. And if you try to do it at home, probably you're going to break the glass. So do not try it. He never broke a glass, and he enjoyed it so much to look at the glass spinning. But some questions that the parents asked me is it necessary? And my answer was yes, it is necessary for him to recover from school, to feel better again. But of course, it's going to be limiting if he does it for hours and hours. So how can we use this ability in order to develop a competence for a life talent? And our idea was understanding what was the pleasure at the base of this behavior and recognizing that he has the need to do this behavior and to act like that. So we started to propose him to work with hands. So probably you know this is clay, and this is how to make a vase and a cup, and he's super good in that. I'm sorry I don't have a video of him working, but we really thought hardly how we can use this behavior in a very positive way and in a very open way to really support them. And I would like to share with you a video about some work we do at the center. And to widen up the talent, we recognize some good talent in recognizing little details and recognizing how we can use hands and attention better. So I want to show our mosaic lab that really presents you how we work with our all the kids on the spectrum.
Etica, rispetto e valore della persona. Sono questi i principi del Centro Autismo Cascina San Vincenzo. Ed è su questi capisaldi che vive l'Officina del Mosaico. Promuovendo lo sviluppo di abilità socio-relazionali, occupazionali e per l'autonomia lavorativa, l'Officina del Mosaico offre la possibilità di misurarsi con un percorso di apprendimento e consolidamento dell'attività artigianale del mosaico, secondo una modalità sperimentale che mira a verificare la possibilità concreta di costruire uno sbocco di tipo lavorativo adeguato alle caratteristiche e ai bisogni di giovani adulti con disturbi dello spettro autistico. Veri ordini lavorativi, scadenze da rispettare e compenso economico eticamente commisurati alle unicità di ogni persona, fanno dell'Officina del Mosaico una vera palestra professionale, permettendo ai giovani coinvolti di affacciarsi ad uno stile che espanda il progetto di vita anche all'età adulta. Officina del Mosaico, Cascina San Vincenzo. Guardiamo al presente, ma costruiamo il futuro.
Okay, the video was, of course, in Italian, and I really hope you could understand the words from my colleague through the subtitles. And the key part of all the experience that we're developing to support people on the spectrum is mainly based on listening. So being a good listener is very key as a professional. But as you can see from this picture, being a good listener doesn't mean only to listen through the ears, but it really means listening also through the heart. It seems to be very obvious, probably for some of you, but it's not obvious for me. And I really assure you that most of professionals are really concentrate on lots of technical stuff and clinical stuff. And sometimes we need to remember that we need also to think through the heart and through the emotions and feelings to really get connected to the person we have in front of us. So finding connections and nurturing talent, equalize the support and the case managers in order to build the bridges between us and family, us and the person on the spectrum is super important in order to promote the quality of life inside the future. So I really welcome you to think about how to improve the systems you're working with, how to promote the connections, and how also to develop a real community of practice inside your area and based on the needs of the people you're supporting and based on the needs of you as a family. So I've finished my presentation and I know we're on time as we said before, and I really hope that everything was clear, and sorry for my English, I'm not a mother language, but I really hope I could give you some insights of my daily job and my daily work. And just to end, my work at the center as pedagogical coordinator, educational coordinator, I support all the people in my colleagues, but I also work directly with 40 teenagers and young adults on the spectrum every week. So I like to be still connected to autism and support people, at the same time having also a more coordinated job. And this is also important for me, to not forget where we come from and understanding people as best. So thank you for listening again.
Thank you very much, dear Paola, for this super presentation. You have a very good example, practical example, and I would say that Italy is in advantage of Macedonia probably 20 years because I know your work. We know each other around 4 years since our common project. So I know that your team working good in your center and also at your university in Milan. So I'm really honest to have you. I'm really honored to have you today. Now we have around 40 participants today, and
Okay.
it is very good for this time of the day, and for around 80 were registered. 50% is always the 50% realize the webinar follow. And also we don't have only from Macedonia guests. We have guests from Bosnia and Herzegovina, from Lithuania, from Slovenia, and most of them are from Macedonia. For those who cannot join us directly, we will try to upload this video on our channel. Okay, now I'm opening the question and answer session, and also on the chat there was one question from Nada Lupjačanec-Nikolovska. I will read for you now. Within the framework of family support, where the list of priorities includes personal interests in the planning of the person with autism.
Thank you, Vladimir, and thank you to Nada for this question, because I think it's a very key question for when it comes to develop the framework of family support. I can tell you about what we do usually. We use two important checklists. The first checklist is the personal interest of the person with autism checklist. We have developed the checklist ourselves, but also if you Google it, you might find a checklist in English or a general checklist, also maybe Macedonian. But it's absolutely important to us, firstly, understanding with the family what is the interest of the person with autism, but also what is the interest of the family. So, for example, if a father or a mother are really interested in, for example, gardening or swimming or doing some sport or some outdoor activity, it can be important to know for us as professionals in order to give some insights about how they can develop a good quality of life at home. The second checklist is from Olga Bogdashina. She's originally from Eastern Europe, and maybe some of you know her. She wrote a lot of books. Now she's actually located in England, and she writes in English, and she wrote a lot of books about autism and sensory dimension. So some of you, probably all of you, knows that autism has a different characteristics, but of course the sensory one was the last one to be added in the most recent diagnostic materials and diagnostic manuals. So the key point about understanding what is the sensory development and the sensory profile of a person with autism is very key to support the family, because sometimes we see behaviors and we don't really understand the behavior itself, but probably some of the behaviors are generated by sensory overload. and not just because a parent is not a good parent. So we need to rebuild the narrative around the child, around the person with autism, looking mainly into these two aspects as first. So interest and sensory profile. So if you look in the internet, you will find books and checklists. The new book edited by Olga Bogdashina, I will write it in the chat, her name. Probably, I don't know if you wrote it down. Bogdashina. Probably you will find some books also in Russian or like in other languages as well. She's a mother of 3 children on the spectrum. Now they're young men. And I think it's really, really interesting to look into her work. I really suggest you to do it because it's switched the idea, and some checklists can support you also to understand about how the environment can make the difference for people on the spectrum.
Thank you, Paola, for your explanation. I know personally Dr. Olga Bogdashina. Yes, she's from Russia, I think so, and now she lives for years in England. And her field of interest are sensory impairments mostly. And also we have one translation of her book on Macedonian a few years ago. Now we are going to the next question from Irena Stoyanovska. Dr. Molteni, how are prospective participants selected to be accepted in the center? Any selection criteria?
Okay, this is another good question, Irena. Thank you. We are supported by the health government. So most of our work is supported by the health ministry of our region. So we firstly need to give accept people that are resident in our province. So the first criteria is where you live, okay? So we need to first give space to the people that are living in our province, because this is what our ministry asks us to do. We have other criteria that are related to social risk. So for example, if we have a family that has also other risk of to have, for example, social issues, health problems also in the family besides autism, and we have poverty, so we have a high risk of social issues, it has a priority, of course. Another criteria, third criteria, is the profile of the person and how this person can be included immediately in the center. So for example, if I have, we don't have an age criteria anymore. Back in the past, we were more tempted to get space to young children instead of young adults. Now we do not have this main criteria anymore as first. But it could be that we welcome an adult because we have immediately a place for this person in a socializing group because the group is already ongoing. So we don't need to add more professionals. So if I have, for example, I work in a group as a professional and the group is already up, I can welcome new people. It is different to arrange probably an individual therapy if the center is already full. So the criteria are not, fixed. We try to look into a very single specific situation. If we have social care sending us a family, it has a priority because we know we have a social emergency. It could be also a school sending a family to us, and that's another emergency in our point of view. And we try to not have a waiting list, but of course we have, as every center has. And most of our work is for free, so families do not have to pay for them. They do not have to pay for our work. In particular, for the case management, work is totally free for them.
That's really good because the government supports your work and pays for you, not parents.
Yes.
In Macedonia, there are a lot of private centers, and the families should pay because the government doesn't cover such a kind of work. Okay.
Let's say it's mixed. So some therapy it is paid by the family, but the case management, that is the key work. And the new thing is like coordinating the team around the child is totally supported by the state. And this is really good.
Yeah, I like the way of your case management. Are there any other question or comments, please? Or if there are not, I will give you one question. It's not so much connected to this topic, to this presentation, but it's connected with autism. You had a really nice presentation in a conference in Nice and of September. It was a great impact with the Serbian colleagues there. I told you, but now I want to tell to our listeners for today's webinar. And I also know something about your work at Catholic University in Milan, but how is the postgraduate studies and PhD studies on autism when young colleagues from special education, from psychology, from pedagogy wants to continue their education, and what subjects, what curriculum programs do you have at your university?
Yes, thank you for your question. And I think I can speak about, in general, about university in Italy. Some of my work was done in the UK, and compared to the UK, we do not have the same kind of proposal for postgraduate or second graduate education, specifically dedicated to autism. So, for example, in the UK, some universities have special postgraduate courses dedicated only to autism. We do not have in my university, and I should say we do not really have it in Italy. So if you want to have to go on in your studies, or you want to do a master degree, for example, you should pick up a degree that is specific for disability. For example, my master degree before the PhD was dedicated, it is still on, and it was about disability in general. So become a consultant on disability and social issues. So we don't have a master degree, and we do not have a PhD program only for autism. So if you want to be a PhD student, we have a common background together with psychology, so School of Education and School of Psychology together. And you agree with your mentor the topic of your PhD studies. This is how I did, and this is still how it is in the country. So honestly, I teach a lot of classes on autism, but all the time I have a feedback from my students that they want to know more, and maybe 20 hours in a full degree program is not enough, not anymore compared to the numbers of people on the spectrum they are going to meet in the day work, So I would like in the future to have something more like the UK, that you have maybe a master degree, and we have a specializing course, but it is not from the Ministry of Education. It's a free initiative from my research center to promote every 2 years a postgraduate course, but it is not a degree, and it is not a PhD course. So yeah, I would like to do that. And in our university, we also have a support center for students with disability, with dyslexia, or with other issues. And I would like to improve the idea of a center that can support students with neurodiversity in general, not just disability. I don't see autism as basically only a disability. We have a lot of brilliant students. I had trainees, I had students myself on the spectrum, and they don't see them as disabled people, of course. I wouldn't feel that.
Yes.
But how to support also students in high school, in post high school, so in the academia, is really key, very key for supporting in the life program that they want to follow. I don't know if I answered you, but I know this is something you're looking into to understand how to promote training, how to support training also in the academia.
Absolutely.
So
we are aware now with our colleagues, because most of the participants today are my former students, my former master students. So it was a really good explanation. Also, I thank you because you are answering every time positive. Also, you were my guest in Maribor conference in March this year, and I hope that our collaboration will continue it in the future, in the journal or the projects on autism and disability as well. One more question from Nada Dupjačanec-Nikolovska. Does family support include the possibility of the child staying at your center in the absence of the parents?
Okay, also this one, Nada, is a good question. We don't really have space for this kind of service for family to come to the center and give the children there. But we have developed, we call it SOS, so emergency support. And we train a group of young girls and boys, so let's say students or university students, to become good babysitters for children at home. So we don't have this kind of service inside the center, but if a family asks us, we can give them a name of a person that is trained on autism and that can give support as babysitter in their house. So that's also a cultural thing. We more Italians like to stay home and to have people coming in the house to support the children when the parents are at work. And in our center, we also have 2 apartments. One is for social training, so we use it a real full apartment to train our people with autism in the daily living. And then we have a second apartment that is given to the community to welcome people into a struggled time. So we can also have, for example, people losing their house. They can come to the center and they can stay there for a certain amount of time. We also have migrants people. So we have Red Cross asking us to give this space to people. So it's a really like a community center. And I think it's very inclusive in any sense. So yes, we know parents need support in managing the children at home and understanding how we can do it. We also train hairdressers and healthcare professionals to support children. So we have also a list of hairdressers, dentists that the family can read into to go and find a professional that is not a therapist, but is able to understand autism.
Okay, yeah. I really enjoy in your lecture and your explanation of the questions. So 1 hour together with our guests, I think that is enough, because there was great interest in Slovenia on Alma Mater European Conference, and also in Niš University of Niš Faculty of Philosophy, but there you have only 10-15 minutes speech. I invite you for this kind of webinar and to be guest of Macedonian Scientific Society for Autism. So I'm going to close this webinar 25th, since we start to organize with World Autism experts, and I think that you are one of them.
Thank you.
I hope, as I thought before, I hope that we will continue our collaboration in the future on the projects, on the journal, on other possible exchange of stuff, and I really want to visit your university.
Italy.
Yeah, in Italy. Last time when I was in Lugano,
we could not make it.
Yeah, we could not manage it because you was very busy. But in some next opportunity, and
Sure.
I will use that. And also, you are invited at our university, St. Cyril and Methodius, and to be a guest of Macedonian Scientific Society for Autism. Now I will, if you allow me, I will switch on Macedonian to thank. You can stay 1 minute more, or
Okay.
you can go.
I can stay.
Or you can go to finish your work. I want you to stay healthy and
Thank you.
with good mood as you always. And positive energy. And also, I will invite our guest for the next activities of MSSA in December. We have 1 or 2 activities, 1 webinar, and probably 1 meeting in person.
Okay. Thank you
Yeah.
again. Thank you again, Vladimir. It's always my pleasure to support in your work. I know you're working very hard and you're a great professional. So it's impressive how many efforts you put into your scientific society dedicated to autism. And thank you, everybody online, families and professionals. And I wish you the best. And I really wish you to not lose your passion for what you do every day. So I know it's hard. It's a hard job, and it's harder, even harder to be a parent, I think. And so thank you again for inviting me today. Thank you so much. Best regards to all of you. Bye-bye.
Thank you again. And we have some several parents also which attend here. Thanks, dear Paola, for interesting presentation. Best regards from Lithuania, from Professor Rita Vaicekauskaite. She's a member of Cupid project, where is also your partner. Okay.
Thank you again.
Now I will switch on Macedonian. 1 minute more. Почитувани дами и господа, драги колешки и колеги, ете тоа беше се за 25-тиот вебинар со доктор Паола Молтени од Католичкиот универзитет во Милано, каде што имавме навистина еден интересен вебинар, 4 прашања, добра дискусија, одлична презентација. Следете не повторно, веќе веднаш после овој вебинар ќе објавам нов вебинар од серијата вебинари нашите професионалци во странство со доктор Ивана Крстовска, која што долги години работи во САД. Ќе имаме вебинар на 11 декември. Ќе треба да се пријавите, ќе ја споделам тој линк на нашите социјални медиуми денеска во текот на денот или најдоцна утре. Ќе зборува за контактот очи со децата со аутизам и можно е да има уште едно, но тоа се уште размислуваме дали ќе биде од широк осврт со повеќе гости или само за членовите на МНЗА во врска со вештачката интелигенција и помошта која што таа ја нуди за децата и лицата со аутистичен спектар на нарушување. Тоа ќе размислиме уште малку, дали ќе имаме и гости од надвор или ќе биде ексклузивно само за членовите на МНЗА во рамките на годишното собрание кое што го планираме за последната декада од декември. Ете толку од нас денеска и од мене. Ви благодарам за вашето внимание. 1 час и 8 минути заедно. Сметам дека е сосема доволно. Се гледаме повторно, дали преку интернет, дали во живо со некој од вас. Ви благодариме што редовно или па и тие што не ги следите редовно, што денеска бевте заедно со нас тука. Ете, тоа е се. Еве, Симона Марковска, не ја познавам, не знам вака името, дали е колешка, па со некој сменето презиме, дали е родител, дали е од некој друг факултет. Ако не биде во живо, ќе видиме баем тој дел од предавањето да биде преку интернет во врска со родител, господја Марковска. Ќе видиме да биде преку интернет, ако не можеме да ве поканиме во живо. Делот каде што господинот кој што исто така родител на дете со аутизам, но има завршено електрофакултет и е експерт за artificial intelligence, вештачка интелигенција, да ви го пренесеме на сите заинтересирани тој дел преку Zoom или преку Microsoft Teams. Океј, ќе видиме, има време, најверојатно на 22 декември ќе биде нашето годишно собрание и најверојатно и тогаш би било и таа негова презентација. И за вас сите што не сте членови на МНЗА, а тоа се родители, други професионалци кои што до сега не биле членови или не сакале да бидат, ќе исто така овозможиме да ете тој наш специјален гостин. Ние секогаш имаме по еден гостин, главно тоа биле професионалци во полето, дефектолози, доктори по медицина, психолози, но сега еве имаме и еден родител кој што не е член на МНЗА, но како надворешен гостин и како човек кој што помогнал на своето дете да видиме како со помош на тие матрици од вештачката интелигенција успеал да ете малку му помогне. Не говорам дека го излечил детето, но го направил многу пофункционално од тоа што било пред да започне со вештачката интелигенција. Ете, толку од мене. Сега е навистина време да ви кажам пријатно попладне. Уживајте во 22-иот ноемвриски ден и се гледаме наскоро со нови содржини. Останете во добро здравје и одлично расположение. Ве поздравуваме од Македонското научно удружение за аутизам. Се негово.